History isn't just dates and dusty books. It's humans messing up, messing with, and sometimes brilliantly shaping the world. From apples falling on heads to empires falling from power, these 10 moments changed everything. And a few will make you go, wait, they really did that? Fasten your seatbelt, because history is messy, dramatic, and oddly hilarious, and it's about to get real. Number 1. Invention of writing, Sumerians. Before this moment, humans didn't really write anything down. They had words, yes, but mostly arguments and exaggerations. I caught this big fish, usually ended up being the size of a whale, in memory only. Then, around 3200 BCE, the Sumerians decided to get serious. Not with philosophy, not with poetry, but because they needed to count stuff. Grain, sheep, taxes. Apparently, humans have always hated losing track of money. So they picked up reeds, pressed them into clay, and scratched symbols, the very first writing. It was boring. It was practical, but it worked. Suddenly, humans could record things that actually happened, not just what they remembered in a my uncle once said kind of way. Laws, trade, stories, even passive-aggressive letters about neighbors stealing goats, all could now survive longer than one lifetime. And that's how writing changed everything. Because once humans could write, memory became optional, and arguments could now last forever on clay tablets. Number 2. Hammurabi's Code. Fast forward a bit to 1754 BCE. The Sumerians had writing. Enter Hammurabi, king of Babylon, looking at society thinking, people clearly can't behave on their own. Let's make this easier by punishing everything really severely. He created one of the earliest legal codes, 282 laws carved into stone. Public, permanent, and very clear. Steal, lose a hand. Lie in court, you die. Build a bad house, you die. Sounds harsh. Sure, but it worked. Everyone knew exactly what could get them killed. And that predictability? Humans love predictability, much more than fairness. Hammurabi wasn't creating poetry. He was creating order. And because of that, the idea that laws could apply to everyone became one of history's most important concepts. All because one king decided that writing could make humans obey, or at least fear the consequences. Number 3. Death of Socrates. Athens, 399 BCE. Socrates walks around asking questions. Big questions. Annoying questions. Questions like, do you know what justice is? And are you actually living wisely? Athenians hate that. Politicians stumble, generals squirm, rich people look foolish. So they charge him with corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods. Socrates could have escaped. Friends offered him a chance. But he refuses. He drinks poison. And then something ironic happens. The man they killed to silence ends up echoing through history. His student Plato writes everything down, and eventually, Western philosophy, ethics, and logic all trace back to Socrates' stubbornness. The moral? Sometimes, asking uncomfortable questions is dangerous, but also very, very profitable in the long run. Number 4. Alexander the Great's Conquests. 336 BCE. Alexander becomes king of Macedonia at 20 years old. Most 20-year-olds are deciding whether to go to dinner or procrastinate homework. Alexander? He's deciding to conquer the known world. And not casually, with fire, ambition, and a touch of obsession. He inherits a kingdom still smarting from his father's death, but he doesn't wait. Within months, he's leading armies into Persia. Imagine the Persian generals hearing, here comes a 20-year-old with an army, and he's smiling. That smile alone probably scared some soldiers more than any spear. Over the next 7 years, Alexander sweeps through Egypt, Syria, Persia, even India, territories most maps didn't even bother to label. He founds cities named after himself, spreads Greek language and culture, and somehow convinces soldiers to march thousands of miles across deserts and mountains, all because he makes war feel like adventure and destiny. But Alexander's genius isn't just military. It's cultural. He blends Greek philosophy with Persian governance, introduces Hellenistic art, and sparks intellectual curiosity. Places that were once isolated suddenly debate ideas, build theaters, and write poetry in a language Alexander pushed across continents. And yet, he dies at 32, exhausted from endless campaigns, leaving generals fighting over his empire like children dividing candy. Alexander never lived long enough to retire, but history remembers him for turning ambition into a force that reshaped the world. Number 5. Birth of Buddhism. 5th century BCE. Siddhartha Gautama, born a prince, watches the world from palace windows. He sees sickness, old age, and death, realities his wealth cannot shield him from. A life of indulgence, gold, and comfort suddenly feels meaningless. So he abandons everything: palaces, family, security. He enters forests, sits under a tree, and confronts the raw essence of existence. Hunger gnaws. Isolation presses. Night brings cold, fear, and doubt. Most humans would falter in hours. Siddhartha endures days, months, until the universe itself seems to whisper clarity. He attains enlightenment. He becomes the Buddha, not because he conquered lands or armies, but because he conquered the mind. He teaches that suffering exists, that attachment binds humans, and that peace is earned through awareness, patience, and compassion. A man gives up a palace to sit quietly under a tree, while we spend years worrying about smartphones, social media, and coffee preferences. And yet, the simplicity of his path sparks profound revolutions in thought and society centuries later. Number 6. Fall of the Roman Republic. 27 BCE. Rome, a republic of senators and debates, collapses, not with a bang, but with paperwork, assassinations, and some really bad leadership choices. Julius Caesar had a dream. I'll fix Rome, maybe by taking all the power myself. Spoiler, that didn't go well for him. Brutus and friends were like, "Et tu, Brute," and stabbed him anyway. Awkward. The Republic ends, and Imperial Rome begins. One man at the top. Absolute power. Less arguing in the Senate, more parades and marble statues of emperors. Rome prided itself on democracy, yet it takes centuries to realize that giving absolute power to a man in a toga is a bad idea. And yet, somehow, Rome thrives. Roads, aqueducts, architecture, all under the watchful eye of emperors who probably had a lot of hair gel. Number 7. Birth of Jesus Christ. Around 4 BCE, in a humble stable in Bethlehem, Jesus is born. No palace, no trumpets, just hay, animals, and awe in its simplest form. His life begins quietly, yet it will shake civilizations. Jesus grows, teaching love, humility, and moral courage in a world ruled by hierarchy, conquest, and ritual. He challenges authority not with armies, but with words, parables, and acts of compassion. He walks streets, heals, debates, and questions human behavior in ways that make rulers uneasy. The irony: the most influential man in history begins life in utter simplicity, and yet, his message spreads far beyond stone walls or thrones. Humor is subtle. History remembers miracles and sermons, yet forgets that the one who changes billions starts life in a barn. Jesus' life demonstrates that profound change often begins quietly, personally, and in unexpected places. Number 8. Fall of the Western Roman Empire. 476 CE. Rome collapses, not with thunder, but through decay, mismanagement, and centuries of overreach. Empires crumble not always from outside, but from within. Barbarian tribes cross borders. Emperors rise and fall like fleeting shadows. Citizens confront economic collapse, insecurity, and uncertainty. Roads, aqueducts, and monuments remain, but the human spirit strains under systemic failure. Rome built laws, armies, and infrastructure to endure forever, yet it falls because of ordinary human mistakes magnified over time. Greed, arrogance, laziness, ambition. Life becomes messy, dangerous, but still human. From the ashes, the Middle Ages rise: castles, knights, trade, and cultural evolution. History proves again: civilization is fragile, and even the mighty are mortal. Number 9. Birth of Islam. 610 CE. Muhammad receives revelations in Mecca, standing against a society entrenched in tribal conflicts and multiple gods. One man speaks of justice, monotheism, and morality, ideas both simple and revolutionary. He faces skepticism, opposition, and danger. Yet his persistence transforms a city, a region, and ultimately, the world. Islam spreads, not by force alone, but through conviction, clarity, and the appeal of a better way to live together. One man, armed only with words and patience, reshapes billions of lives. Imagine the look of locals thinking, "Who is this guy, and why is he still talking?" History laughs quietly at human stubbornness and vision. Number 10. Charlemagne crowned emperor. 800 AD. Charlemagne, king of the Franks, is crowned emperor of the Romans. Irony drips. Centuries after Rome falls, a Frankish king claims the Roman crown. He unites Western Europe, spreads Christianity, and fosters learning, an empire built on vision, diplomacy, and ambition. Borders shift, cultures blend, and Europe slowly emerges from chaos. Rome is revived by someone who isn't Roman. The crown, the ceremonies, the expectations, history folds back on itself with a smirk. Charlemagne's reign reminds us, vision, courage, and persistence can revive legacies, even centuries after they seem gone. And often, history rewards the bold in ways even they cannot imagine. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, liking and subscribing is always appreciated.